Hi, I'm Jason Kalkirtz, Senior Counsel at GRSM. Today I'm going to briefly discuss the current legal landscape surrounding the popular GLP-1 drug products under the brand names like Wegovy, Ozempic, Zepbound, and Mounjaro, and the legal challenges they present for telehealth companies, physicians, and compounding pharmacies. These GLP-1s have become extremely popular as weight loss and diabetes medications for adults, in part due to the off-label use for helping patients lose weight. Semaglutide and Tirzepatide are the two popular active drug ingredients found in these brand name drugs, such as Ozempic and Zepbound, which are manufactured by Novo Nordisk and Eli Lilly. These prescription medications have been in high demand, particularly among patients seeking weight loss solutions, leading to a drug shortage over the past few years. Currently, these brand named GLP-1s aren't available as generic drug products because the FDA approved medications are still under patent protection. Novo Nordisk holds its U.S. patent on semaglutide until 2032, and Eli Lilly on tirzepatide until 2036. Under Section 503A and 503B of the Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act, compounding pharmacies are generally prohibited from making essentially identical copies of these brand name drugs until the patent expires. However, due to the popularity and demand for these GLP-1s, these medications were placed on the FDA drug shortage list in 2022 because the drug manufacturers cannot meet the market demand for their FDA-approved medications. So when a drug is listed on the FDA drug shortage list, it is considered not commercially available, which generally lifts the normal restrictions on drug compounding. As a result, this exemption allows 503A state licensed pharmacies or 503B FDA registered outsourcing facilities to fill market demand when these GLP-1 drugs are on the FDA drug shortage list, permitting compounding of essentially copies of these popular drugs. So since 2022, many online telehealth companies and compounding pharmacies have been offering compounded versions of these GLP-1 medications as an alternative during the drug shortage. But now, the FDA has recently declared the drug shortage over for these blockbuster GLP-1 weight loss drugs. This recent FDA decision means that many compounded versions mass-produced by compounding pharmacies may now be considered unlawful. This recent FDA decision has major legal implications, particularly for compounding pharmacies and telehealth companies that are offering compounded versions of GLP-1s. This is a more complex area of the law, and companies in this stage should prepare for challenges to their current operation to ensure compliance with these new regulatory developments. Additionally, there has been lawsuits around these GLP-1s. In particular, compounding pharmacies and trade associations have filed lawsuits against FDA, challenging its decision to remove these GLP-1s from the drug shortage list. However, these lawsuits are still pending. So telehealth companies and compounding pharmacies must now prepare to comply with standard FDA regulations for drug compounding, which may require significant adjustments to their operation. A failure to comply with these FDA regulations could result in legal action, including FDA warning letters, fines, or even potential shutdowns. If FDA ultimately prevails in the ongoing litigation, any mass compounding of GLP-1s at the 503B level will generally become unlawful. The FDA has granted a transition period for entities making and offering compounded GLP-1 drugs with different compliance dates for 503A pharmacies and 503B outsourcing facilities. The FDA also intends to exercise enforcement discretion for these 503A and 503B pharmacies. This delay in FDA enforcement action will help allow patients a reasonable amount of time to transfer prescriptions to a different pharmacy for the FDA-approved GLP-1 drug product, and also give pharmacies time to adjust their stock and ordering patterns in response to the shifting patient demand. Thus, both 503A pharmacies and 503B outsourcing facilities may no longer legally make essentially copies of these GLP-1 drugs unless an exemption applies. One notable exemption is that smaller 503A state licensed pharmacies may fill individual prescriptions if the medical provider determines there is a medical reason the patient needs a different compounded version than the brand name drug. So 503A state licensed pharmacies may potentially compound GLP-1s outside of the drug shortage, provided that the compounded version that makes a significant difference to meet the individual needs of a patient as determined by a medical provider. And again, this is a more complex legal area of the law, and this can also result in regulatory action or increased litigation surrounding compounded GLP-1 versions. Also, the drug manufacturers Novo Nordisk and Eli Lilly are actively protecting their patents to ensure that only the FDA-approved versions of their drugs are available to patients. These drug manufacturers have been sending cease and desist letters and filing lawsuits against telehealth companies and compounding pharmacies that make and sell compounded GLP-1 versions. Further, the FDA has not taken a definitive position on the different compounded versions. So these lawsuits may impact the regulatory timelines and enforcement policies, and telehealth companies and drug compounders should closely monitor these legal developments to stay ahead of any changes. In sum, the FDA's decision to remove semaglutide and tirzepatide from the drug shortage list has significant legal implications for telehealth companies, medical providers, and compounding pharmacies. Some compounding pharmacies and telehealth companies may continue offering modified versions of GLP-1s, such as alternative doses or with additional ingredients like B6 or B12 to meet the individual needs of the patient. So it will be interesting to watch these developments on certain GLP-1 products that continue to compound under the rationale that certain compounded versions are required to meet the individual needs of the patient. Our law firm helps navigate the evolving regulatory landscape surrounding these GLP-1s, helping ensure compliance and mitigating legal risks. We closely monitor these developments and regularly advise companies on legal complexities. If your telehealth company or pharmacy is involved in compounding GLP-1 drugs and you're unsure how these changes may impact your operation, our firm is here to help. So please feel free to reach out if your company needs assistance in navigating these regulations to ensure your company remains compliant and avoid legal challenges. Thank you.